Resource Management, Globalization, Environment and Development, and Introduction to Geoinformatics. The instructional system that is followed at IGNOU includes the multimedia approach, the self-learning materials, audio-video programs, assignments, counseling sessions, project work, teleconferencing and interactive radio counseling are conducted time to time every month for the benefit of the learners. The self-instructional material is available on the eGyankosh website and also the printed material. The assignments are also freely available and they can be downloaded from the IGNOU website on the Students Zone. After successful completion of the first year, the learners can get a postgraduate diploma with an exit option, and the term and examination is held twice a year in June as well as in December. The admission link for the program is ignouadmission.samarth.edu.in. For all queries and support, the program coordinators Professor B. Rupini, Dr. Sushmita Bhaskar and Professor Ruchika Cuba from the School of Interdisciplinary and Transdisciplinary Studies and School of Health Sciences. I hope you find this course very informative and we invite you to join for this course. Thank you.
नमस्कार, स्काई इज़ द लिमिट के 4th एपिसोड में आप सभी का स्वागत है। स्काई इज़ द लिमिट EMPC-IGNOU की एक अनूठी पहल है जिसके अंतर्गत हम विभिन्न विषयों पर डिस्कस करते हैं। हमारे पिछले एपिसोड्स आपने ज़रूर देखे होंगे जिसमें हमने कई विषय जो हम सभी को प्रभावित करते हैं डायरेक्टली और इनडायरेक्टली, जैसे एग्ज़ाम स्ट्रेस को कैसे मैनेज करें, नेचुरल डिज़ास्टर्स के समय क्या करें, इन सारे विषयों पर जो कि समसामयिक विषय भी हैं, इन सभी पर हम डिस्कस करते हैं। सो व्यूअर्स, टुडेज सेशन इज़ गोइंग टू बी वेरी इंटरेस्टिंग क्योंकि आज हम उस टॉपिक पे बात करेंगे जिसकी चिंता हम सबको है, लेकिन क्या करें और किस प्रकार से उसका सॉल्यूशन ढूंढा जाए इस बारे में हम ज़्यादा कुछ नहीं जानते। कई प्रकार की भ्रांतियाँ उससे संबंधित हैं। सो द टॉपिक ऑफ टुडेज डिस्कशन इज़ managing household waste. Yes, the paper, plastic, glass, metals, various things which every day find way into our dustbins. There's a lot of hue and cry about waste management, waste segregation, waste minimization. What are all these terms? How we can contribute? So, on this topic today, we have some very eminent guests which are there with us in our studios. Let me take this opportunity to introduce Dr. Suneel Pandey ji, who is head at the Circular Economy and Waste Management Division at TERI. जो वेस्ट मैनेजमेंट के बारे में जानते हैं या पढ़ते हैं, उन्होंने सुनील पांडे जी का नाम अवश्य सुना होगा। वेलकम टू द सेशन सर।
Thank you, Dr.
Another expert which we have with us today is Mr. Shrotik Bose. He is a research associate at Center for Science and Environment, another important body which works extensively on various issues of environment, sustainability, and of course, waste management. Welcome, Shrotik sir, to our session, to our studio. So one thing, I think we must start the discussion. Our students and those who are watching the program live, they are very much eager to know about the waste management and particularly household waste management. सुनील जी, मैं आपसे पूछती हूँ सबसे पहले कि वेस्ट की आज के सिचुएशन में कहना चाहिए कि सिचुएशन कितनी ख़राब है. ज़रा पहले ये बताइए कि हम डिस्कस करते हैं अबाउट प्लास्टिक, इलेक्ट्रॉनिक. व्हाट इज़ द सिचुएशन राइट नाउ?
डॉक्टर दवे, जैसा कि हम लोग डिफरेंट अलग अलग रिपोर्ट्स में देख रहे हैं और सरकार के इनिशिएटिव्स जो है कुछ 10 साल पहले जब शुरू हुए थे तब से वैसे काफ़ी इम्प्रूवमेंट है वेस्ट मैनेजमेंट में, लेकिन फिर भी कुछ चीज़ें हैं जैसे प्लास्टिक है. प्लास्टिक अगर हम ढंग से कलेक्ट नहीं करते हैं, खास करके हमारे पैकेजिंग प्लास्टिक, तो वो जो है सड़कों पे इधर उधर और होते हैं. फाइनली वो जो है रिवर्स में जाते हैं, पॉन्ड्स में जाते हैं, जंगलों में जाते हैं, लैंडफिल्स पे जाते हैं जहाँ जलाने से पोल्यूशन होता है, नदियों में जाते हैं तो वहाँ से फाइनली जो नदियाँ समुद्र में ड्रेन होती हैं उनसे समुद्र में जाते हैं और मरीन लिटर का प्रॉब्लम बन जाते हैं. और मरीन लिटर आजकल हम लोग इसको ऐसे समझ सकते हैं कि क्लाइमेट चेंज के बाद जो है सबसे बड़ा इन्वायरमेंटल डिज़ास्टर मरीन लिटर बन चुका है और सारे ग्लोबल डिस्कोर्सेज में कहीं ना कहीं मरीन लिटर डिस्कस करते हैं. तो इससे जो है प्रॉब्लम की जो है कितना गंभीर ये समस्या है ये समझा जा सकता है.
बिल्कुल निश्चय सिचुएशन बहुत ग्रेव है क्योंकि न केवल लैंड मासेस बल्कि जैसा कि आप बात करें ओशंस, एंड इफ़ आई एम नॉट रॉन्ग प्लीज़ करेक्ट मी, वी हैव आल्सो फाउंड ट्रेसेस ऑफ द प्लास्टिक्स एट द एंटार्क्टिका एंड दोज आर द डीपर ट्रेंचेस ऑफ द ओशंस वेयर इट वाज नोवेयर फाउंड. Shrotik ji, please tell us some statistics about how much do we generate.
India generates roughly about 62 million tons of municipal solid waste, but ये number is not very accurate because it's largely based on estimations. जैसे if I'm taking an example of Delhi generates somewhere between 10 to 15,000 tons per day. We do have some numbers though that as per CBE there are total 3159 existing dump sites in the country, and the numbers are startling. It's in millions, it's in tons per day, something that it's difficult for us to contemplate कि इतना बड़ा numbers. We all of us generate a lot of waste, and we'll come to that discussion in the later stages. And because if waste is managed at household level, at source, it becomes a resource. So,
yeah, definitely. And जब हम household waste की बात कर रहे हैं तो एक peculiar characteristic होता है household waste का, which may not necessarily be so much of toxic. Yes. But then general masses, they are not aware of what constitutes an household waste. So can you throw some light on, what does it entail, the household waste particularly, and looking into the rural as well as the urban context, what does it comprise of?
अर्बन एरियाज़ में जैसे अब हम लोग जो भी चीज़ें दिन में दैनिक उसमें इस्तेमाल करते हैं, जब वो उनकी यूज़फुलनेस ख़त्म हो जाती है तो वो वेस्ट बन जाते हैं. जैसे न्यूज़पेपर पढ़ने के बाद वो वेस्ट हो जाता है. पैकेजिंग, ग्रॉसरी वगैरह जो ख़रीदा, ग्रॉसरी को कंटेनर्स में ट्रांसफ़र करने के बाद वो जो पैकेजिंग है वो वेस्ट हो जाती है. और इस तरह से जो है वेजिटेबल्स, खाने पीने का सामान जो है, जो जैसे वेजिटेबल कुक करते हैं तो उसके पील्स जो निकलते हैं या लेफ्ट ओवर फूड होता है वो वेस्ट हो जाता है. और इस तरह के कभी कभी वंस इन ए वाइल, जैसे आपने पेंट ख़रीदा घर में यूज़ करने के लिए, उसका कंटेनर जब खाली हो जाता है तो कई बार उसको, क्योंकि वो क्लीन नहीं होता तो हम रीयूज़ नहीं करते हैं, फेंक देते हैं. इसी तरह से जो है डिफरेंट टाइप के कंटेनर्स जो है जिसमें शैम्पू आता है जैसे, या जो है डिटर्जेंट आता है या डिफरेंट तरह की चीज़ें आती हैं, वो जनरली जनरेट करते हैं एज अ वेस्ट. फिर खाने पीने के गुड्स हैं जैसे बेवरेज हैं, बेवरेज बॉटल्स हैं, वो कई वेस्ट करके निकलते हैं. तो इस तरह की चीज़ें जो है घर में जो घरेलू इस्तेमाल में यूज़ करने के बाद हम फेंक देते हैं। और लंबे परिप्रेक्ष्य में देखें तो कई बार हमारे इलेक्ट्रॉनिक गुड्स हैं जो हम यूज़ करते हैं, वो जब काम करना बंद कर देते हैं, चार्जर्स हैं, बैटरीज हैं, सेल फोन्स हैं, वो भी वेस्ट बन जाते हैं। तो उनको किस तरह से जो है कितनी सावधानी से हम हैंडल करें, दैट इज़ अबाउट हाउस होल्ड वेस्ट।
Yes, Shrotik ji, waste segregation is thought to be the most important basic step towards waste management. लेकिन waste segregation becomes, sometimes very difficult when you look at the household waste. क्योंकि उसमें variety बहुत होती है लेकिन quantity बहुत कम होती है. That is something which is, told. So, can you tell us some tips that how should we segregate the household waste?
ठीक है, आप अगर डोमेस्टिक प्रोडक्शन ऑफ वेस्ट को देखिए, आप एक दिन में कितना कचरा प्रोड्यूस करते हैं. सो इफ़ यू टेक दैट बाय वेट, रफली 60% ऑफ दैट इज़ वेट वेस्ट और किचन वेस्ट, गार्डन वेस्ट, फूड वेस्ट, एंड द ड्राई वेस्ट कंपोनेंट इज़ 40%. उसका वॉल्यूम ज़्यादा होता है, वज़न कम होता है. इफ़ यू थिंक इट दिस वे, एक घर में बहुत टाइम से वेट वेस्ट पड़ा है, वो महकेगा या ड्राई वेस्ट पड़ा है, वो दूसरा ड्राई वेस्ट महकेगा. इट इज़ द वेट वेस्ट, स्टोरिंग द वेट वेस्ट एट होम दैट बिकम्स अ लिटिल ट्रिकी. सो ईजियर फॉर हाउस होल्ड्स जहाँ पे स्पेस कंस्ट्रेंट्स है, दैट डिस्पोजल ऑफ वेट वेस्ट, गिविंग आउट द वेट वेस्ट ऑन अ रेगुलर बेसिस, एंड मे बी अ लार्ज बैग और समथिंग, वहाँ पे सेग्रीगेटेड ड्राई वेस्ट कैन बी स्टोर्ड फॉर अ लॉन्गर ड्यूरेशन ऑफ टाइम, जब तक वो भर नहीं जाता है, एंड देन इट कैन बी गिवन. So it is manageable. It is manageable to a degree that it also about intent. It's our duty as per the Solid Waste Management Rules 2016. It's our duty as waste generators to segregate our waste. And हम ये नहीं बोल सकते कि the counter question is like हम हेलमेट क्यों पहनते हैं, पुलिस से बचने के लिए या सिर बचाने के लिए. हम लोग एज जनरेटर्स, आवर ड्यूटी इज टू सेग्रीगेट द वेस्ट व्हेन वी आर गिविंग इट आउट, नॉट से कि इसके बाद जाके उसका कुछ नहीं होता. दैट्स नॉट आवर रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी, दैट्स बियॉन्ड आवर स्कोप ऑफ इंटरवेंशन. आवर स्कोप ऑफ इंटरवेंशन इज लिमिटेड टू आवर हाउस होल्ड्स. द ईजिएस्ट वे इज सेग्रीगेट योर वेट वेस्ट, keep and segregate your dry waste, keep it separately. Wet waste will smell after a day or two, give it out. ड्राई वेस्ट अगर आपको लगे कि क्वांटिटी बहुत कम है, आई स्टे अलोन, आई barely manage to produce anything, maybe एक plastic packaging or something. It will take me months to fill up the to match the total amount of wet waste that I'm generating. क्योंकि एक बार मैं सब्जी बना लिया तो एक गोभी काट के जो वजन रह जाता है, I can't match that. So wet waste has to be handed out on a regular basis. Dry waste can be stored for a considerable amount of time. It's doable. We'll talk about this too.
Yeah. So the audience sitting in the studio, you can anytime ask the question whenever you feel like. Okay, if around the discussion, if anything comes, please ask your question. Okay. Yes, Anand has a question.
Myself, Anand Raj, PhD research scholar in environmental science. My question is that, sir, I am doing my research in tribal communities. I have observed that they manage their organic waste, household waste, by making compost and use it as a manure in their field. In rural areas also, people who have cattle in their home, they collect the household waste and give their food to the cattle, that waste to the cattle. So how to revive these traditional practices and how we can sustainably manage that household waste?
In tribal locations?
Yes, sir.
In tribal locations.
Yeah, they compost their waste.
They're managing better. How
The question is already tribal locations they are doing. How we can revive those things in the urban areas?
In urban areas.
Yes.
Okay. So you have a cattle farm in this city of Delhi. You have a cattle farm और आप अपने गाय को क्या खिलाएंगे? होमोजीनियस वेस्ट खिलाएंगे ना, तो आपको वो सोर्स करना पड़ेगा. कहाँ से मिलेगा? मुझे मार्केट देख लीजिए जहाँ पे lot of green vegetables are left. So if you can source it directly from the market, you get homogeneous wet waste that you can feed it to the cattle. आप जो tribal locations के बात बोल रहे, absolutely agree. India has been practicing composting. There are various types of composting methods across the country. and it's been practicing composting throughout centuries. If you go towards northeast, almost entirety of the wet waste is managed through piggeries. So there are possibilities in cities too, but if you want that to be emulated in a city like Delhi, you have to fix the homogeneous. You have to get a homogeneous source. So markets and the bulk waste generators are a good place to start.
Yes.
क्योंकि आप अपने गाय को अच्छा खाना खिलाना चाहते हैं.
Yes. In some way or the other, don't you think so that our urban local bodies and municipalities have a role to play in this? Because many times when it comes to source segregation, there is often a complaint where the citizens say that they segregate it, they keep it separately, but when the kudawala comes, it all gets messed up, mixed up, and then there is no motivation. So how do you think this situation?
The way we understand is about the whole contracting system, which has to be changed.
Okay.
Presently, what happens is, as we were also discussing, the contract is about how many tons a contractor transports, and he's paid based on that.
Okay.
So segregation is not segregation
Financially
starts at
attractive.
household level, but the spirit of segregation gets lost at the transportation stage. So if the contracts are structured like based on segregation and segregated transport, the more you transport waste in segregated manner, the more you are paid, then this problem can be addressed.
Okay, we have one question which has come up on our YouTube channel. Miss Vaishali Chauhan, and she's asking that what hygiene should be provided at the waste collection centers, recycling centers. Are they worker friendly in terms of hygiene standards?
Mostly not because the sense of hygiene and also sense of this personal protective equipment, which we call them, using them and working with them, a person has to get used to, and many times this doesn't happen. हमको मास्क दिया जाता है, ग्लव्स दिए जाते हैं, बूट्स दिए जाते हैं. वी डोंट फील कंफर्टेबल वर्किंग विद देम. कोई इंस्पेक्शन हो रहा है तो सबने पहन लिया, और उसके बाद जैसे ही इंस्पेक्शन खत्म हुआ फिर सबने उतार दिया. दैट इज हाउ वी आर एक्चुअली स्ट्रक्चर्ड. सो culture of safety has to be built in. Whichever area we work in, and culture of safety ensures that like now over the years we have got used to wearing seat belts. Now, moment you sit in car, you automatically, your hand goes to the seat belt and you put seat belt on. Initially, when this was launched, there was so much opposition to why should we wear seat belt and this, that. So, it's culture of safety which has to be ingrained. And then this problem will not be there.
Yes.
Working in unhygienic conditions and working without proper safety guidelines.
I think that is in line with the Swachh Bharat tag this time, that Swabhav Swachhata, Sanskar Swachhata. So it should come into our habits, into our sanskar of cleanliness and of course waste management indirectly. Again, we have one question, Santosh Sahu. This question is from Bangalore, and he says that he lives in a small space, a small PG, and he's asking that I am living alone. What eco-friendly practices can I adopt to manage the household waste? Because you can be an example, Shrotik ji.
You've been in
And
similar
how
situations
these can be, means I think the question which is that can you give some small baby steps, which could be taken by an individual?
Absolutely. I kind of relate with you, Santosh, because there was a point even I was staying in a PG in Bangalore, and it's easier to carry your own bag, refuse plastic wherever possible. I mean, it will take some time for you to adjust to it, but it's doable. Carry your own bag always, and get a refillable water bottle which you can fill it whenever you require water, and try to not waste food, because I am assuming that you are staying in a PG and you dispose a lot of food. Try to take only as much as you can eat. The cook would figure out that this much amount of food has to be made for everyone. So it will take some time. These are small steps, baby steps. And again, you have given us a question because you're thinking. And I keep on saying this everywhere, that our interventions can differ, but our goal is the same. The goal is to make the world a better place. So no matter what you do, you're going for a plug run on a weekend, please do. You are having an opportunity to volunteer somewhere, please do. So these are the small steps you can take, and this will build up your idea of what to do next. I hope that answers the question.
Yes, that is very interesting and as well as encouraging because individual actions do matter.
Yes.
That is very important. Another question, we have so many questions that seems to be a very interactive sessions because I'm skipping many of the questions. Kritika Nag, she's asking how does it differ to manage the waste in the rural areas and in the urban areas? How does it differ?
Two ways. We had some reference of tribal areas in the beginning. One is they're not rural areas are not so congested, so that gives some freedom of operation. Urban areas mostly are very congested, so there you need services which are a little different. So रूरल एरिया में हमको फ्रीडम ये है कि जो भी वेस्ट जनरेट हो रहा है जगह है हम कंपोस्ट आसानी से कर सकते हैं विद इन आवर प्रीमाइसेस में भी क्लोज टू आवर प्रीमाइसेस क्लोज टू आवर फील्ड्स जहाँ पे हम खेती करते हैं और वो एक फ्रीडम है. और अगर कैटल है हमारे पास जैसा पहले डिस्कस हो रहा था तो इवन दे कैन फीड ऑन दैट. और ड्राई वेस्ट जो है इट्स नॉट सो मच ड्राई वेस्ट अदर देन पैकेजिंग नाउ ऑफ कोर्स इन रूरल एरियाज ऑल्सो things like Maggi and packaged food is becoming important and becoming popular, and they are also preferring to eat that. So that generation is there. What government has done is they are also implementing currently rural material recovery facilities.
Yes, MRF.
With simple MRF, with simple baling facilities. So rural areas are now being trained to basically manage their dry waste into such facilities. And as was also pointed out earlier, collect them, wait till the volume, there's sufficient volume for someone to take it away. Because dry waste, nothing is going to happen to dry waste if it is clean and dried. Then you can always collect them and aggregate them till sufficient volume is there. For urban areas, wet waste has to be removed every day. India is a temperate country, so and as said earlier, waste will start smelling if you don't remove it every day. So there you need services, and a lot of people in urban areas also are out most of the day during the daytime. So there has to be services also to be provided at a fixed time, either early in the morning or late in the evening.
True.
So I mean, and waste has to be removed every day, especially wet waste, which is our food waste, garden waste, and all such kinds of waste. So that's a difference in rural.
We'll add to that. हम अक्सर ये करते हैं ना, शहरों में जो हो रहा है वही हम कोशिश करते हैं गांव में लेके जाने. But for waste management, you have to see the quantum of waste that a rural household generates and a urban household generates differs very much. So and जैसे सुनील जी ने बताया कि the rural MRFs that we have working models across the country, and the whole idea is it takes time to build up that dry waste. तो it does not mean कि मुझे वहाँ पे एक कन्वेयर बेल्ट बैठा देना है जो शहरों में मैंने देख के आया. That does not work. Manual sorting into as many categories जितना bias को हम दे सके. So these are small things. I mean, just because दिल्ली में हो रहा है इसका मतलब ये नहीं कि कोई छोटे से गांव में भी होगा. So these are very different things, very different characteristics, and both has to be dealt with differently.
That is very true. So we shall now take a small break, and we will be back shortly.
पहाड़ों पर जाना किसे पसंद नहीं. इस तरह के पहाड़ तो आपने देखे ही होंगे. चलिए आज आपको विशेष प्रकार के पहाड़ों की सैर कराते हैं. ये हैं कूड़े के पहाड़. जिनके बोझ तले दुनिया दबी जा रही है। इन कूड़े के पहाड़ों में हैं हमारे घरों, कार्यालयों, उद्योगों से निकलने वाली बेकार की वस्तुएं, जैसे इस्तेमाल किया हुआ कागज़, फटे कपड़े, पुरानी लकड़ी, धातु, कांच के सामान, सब्जी फलों के छिलके, पुराने मोबाइल, लैपटॉप इत्यादि। कूड़े के ये पहाड़ न केवल शहरों में बल्कि गांव में भी पाए जाते हैं। अपशिष्ट की बढ़ती हुई मात्रा और इसकी विषैली प्रकृति हमारे पर्यावरण और स्वास्थ्य को नुकसान पहुंचाती है। कभी सोचा है इसका निपटान कैसे होता है, या क्या होता है इन कूड़े के पहाड़ों का? कैसे हम इस समस्या से छुटकारा पा सकते हैं? इन सभी प्रश्नों का उत्तर देने के लिए इंदिरा गांधी राष्ट्रीय मुक्त विश्वविद्यालय अपशिष्ट प्रबंधन में प्रमाण पत्र कार्यक्रम प्रस्तुत करता है। यदि आप नगर निगम में कार्यरत हैं, सैनिटरी इंस्पेक्टर हैं, अपशिष्ट प्रबंधक हैं या अपशिष्ट से जुड़ी हुई परामर्श सेवाएं, अनुसंधान या विकास कार्य करते हैं, तो ये कार्यक्रम आपके लिए सर्वोत्तम है। कार्यक्रम की न्यूनतम योग्यता है 12वीं उत्तीर्ण और इसे 6 महीने में पूरा किया जा सकता है, या अधिक से अधिक आप इसे 2 साल के अंतराल पर भी पूरा कर सकते हैं। कार्यक्रम में शामिल है स्व शिक्षण पाठ्यक्रम सामग्री, ऑडियो वीडियो संसाधन और विभिन्न माध्यमों से शिक्षण की सुविधा। तो फिर देर किस बात की, चलिए समस्या का नहीं समाधान का हिस्सा बने। अपशिष्ट प्रबंधन में प्रमाण पत्र कार्यक्रम में दाखिला लें। हम आपके स्वागत के लिए आतुर हैं। अधिक जानकारी के लिए देखें www.ignou.ac.in। धन्यवाद।
Welcome back to the session, and it has really been very exciting to know more about waste and managing the waste which is generated at our households. So again, going on with the session now, sir, we could know that yes, at the individual level also there can be steps which could be taken, and which the people must take so as to minimize the waste which is generated. But then another question is coming here, because it seems to be about the domestic hazardous waste. I'll just read out the question. This is Suneel, which says that how can we create awareness about safely disposing of sharp objects? So I was coming to you, sir, when we were talking about the composting and these all things which are generally related to biodegradable waste. But nowadays the composition of the waste at our homes is basically very toxic, very hazardous in nature. Yes. Looking into the chemicals, which we have been using. What should we do? Because it must be posing threat to our health also.
Just to give you reference, the type of medicines which we currently use, and now more and more, because of more and more pollution, the medicine intake also goes in.
Yes.
And at the time, either they're expired, or there's something left which has to be disposed. And then some home treatment facilities like insulin injections, or and then in addition to that, diapers which we use. So all these basically are have to be dealt accordingly. Chemicals which are left over have to be dealt accordingly. और इसमें सजेस्ट क्या करते हैं All these have to be packed separately. Packed separately. The rule suggests that, especially sanitary diapers waste, it has to be wrapped and marked in some manner to indicate that it's a sanitary diaper. And then many cities, what they have done, when the vehicles come, there's a separate provision for storing sanitary waste. अदर हाउस होल्ड hazardous waste, जैसे हमारे ट्यूब लाइट्स हैं, CFL ट्यूब्स हैं, ये फ्यूज़ हो जाते हैं. एंड लॉट ऑफ यू माइट नो कि जो LEDs हैं अभी ये फिर भी सेफ हैं. हमारे जो पुराने CFLs आते थे उसमें मरकरी काफ़ी होता था. सो दे नीड टू बी बेसिकली स्टोर्ड इन ए इंटैक्ट मैनर. And whenever municipal truck vehicle comes or collector comes, they have to be given to them. And there is a separate provision, separate box for storing that. And then they take it further for managing it as a household hazardous waste in the end.
Okay. So that way it should be, yeah, there is a question.
Can you tell me something about how to dispose of medicines like tablets and cough syrups, because they have a lot of potential to cause harm to the ecological balance, and the thing is that medicines are used all across the spectrum, irrespective of the economic or the social status.
Very good question. Generally what happens is rule is not clearly specifying this particular aspect of leftover medicines. But what can be done is at the, say if you are staying in a society, if your affairs are managed by a resident welfare association, you can talk within your resident welfare association that there has to be a provision for storing all such medicines together. The one which are not expired can always be given to charitable hospitals. They have provision of taking medicine, but one which is expired is also not useful to them. There are many medicine manufacturers. If you talk to them, they agree to kind of taking them back because they have plants for manufacturing these medicines, and often they also deal with quality specifications. When they are not met, the medicines become waste, and they have provision for managing that. But that has to be done very diligently at a larger level.
Okay. There is one question, sir. Somesh Suraj is asking that I live near a composting site and it smells very badly.
Yes.
So is his health at risk?
It is at risk, and that's a problem.
Even near a composting site.
That is a problem.
It's not a landfill, but still.
That is a problem when we compost it, especially large composting sites. The common practice, the common technology which we follow is windrow composting, which has to be done in open. And waste, when it comes, tons of waste when it comes, it's very difficult to put everything immediately the moment it arrives in a pile. The compost operators try to sanitize the waste when it comes there so that it doesn't smell so much, but some amount of smell would remain.
Okay.
So now what's happening is, especially a lot of bulk waste generators in Delhi, they're looking at options which are closed environment composting, which is called in-vessel composting. Okay. Little costlier, but then with contribution of households, it can be managed. Okay. So naturally something which is done in open.
She has a question. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Actually, I want to ask regarding how can I reduce waste in the bathroom? Like you have already mentioned chemical hazards and Harpic, that kind products also we are using in the washroom, but we don't have any idea how to make a more eco-friendly. So could you suggest?
Always when you go to the market, when you look for, say, toilet cleaner, look for alternatives which are less toxic. There are many countries which have now come out with options which are less toxic, which are more eco-friendly, which are easily degradable in a longer run. Because this is also one of the issues in households, is amount of Harpic which we use for toilet cleaning, because it has to be ultimately flushed in the water. And it then, after flushing, it also kills many good bacteria and good microorganisms also when it is flushed subsequently. And similarly using detergents. So when they are flushed finally, they cause nutrient overload in the water bodies. And much of the Yamuna foam story which you now hear is about a lot of detergents being put into water. Yes. So many countries are working towards eco-friendly alternatives. And one needs to be a little more careful when with a choice when we go. If there's an alternative available in the market, one can go for that.
Yeah. Shrotik ji, I would ask you, one of the most important culprit in our household waste is plastic. Although we need a separate session to talk about plastic, its alternatives, its management. Of course, we will do it in some time. But how do we solve that? How do we look for some alternatives for plastic?
Plastic is a very interesting product. So whenever you're using plastic, there should be one consideration, take it from now, that what is the shelf life or the usage life of plastic? If a plastic product is being used for considerable amount of time, consider the LED, the tube light boards which is there for like last 10 years. There's nothing wrong with using plastic with that. But other products like a polythene bag, which is like I just went to the market, got something and then disposing it. So way to minimize plastic at home is using plastic products which have larger usage life. Then you will see a multiple fold reduction of plastic generation in your household. And dispose it properly. Don't mix it with wet waste. Your best quality HDP, PP, mix it with sambar, will reduce its value drastically and nobody's going to buy it. So please keep your sambar separately and the different type of plastic separately and hand it out to a person who's going to responsibly manage it. These are few things every household can do.
I think Rishabh has a question.
Hello everyone. My name is Rishabh. I am working in the field of green entrepreneurship in the plastic alternative sector. Sir, in the research process में और जो भी मैं फील्ड वर्क किया हूँ, इस बीच मैंने सर और वेरियस साइंटिफिक ऑर्गेनाइजेशन ने एक चीज़ ऑब्जर्व की है कि आजकल मल्टी लेयर जो पैकेजिंग प्लास्टिक्स है, इनकी मात्रा समाज में बहुत बढ़ती जा रही है. कूड़ेदान में कहीं भी देखें, क्योंकि ई मार्केट प्लेसेस और जो भी फूड डिलीवरी ऐप्स है, लोग इसका प्रयास बहुत ज़्यादा कर रहे हैं. तो इसके चलते सर इनको मैनेज करने के लिए क्या क्या इफेक्टिव और सस्टेनेबल मेथड्स वी कैन एम्प्लॉय, और देश में जितनी भी वेरियस थिंक टैंक्स है, ये क्या क्या न्यू इनोवेटिव अप्रोचेस ला रही है जिससे इनको इफेक्टिव मैनेज करने में सहायता मिल सके. धन्यवाद सर.
तो MLP का इस्तेमाल लार्जली इसलिए होता है कि MLP जो है हमारे स्पेशली फास्ट फूड जो है उनको एक enhanced shelf life मिलती है. Typically MLP packed food lasts for 6 months if it's produced and packed, and because India is a large country and you'll not be surprised, in every nook and corner you'll find some packed alternative packed in a MLP available, and that happens only because it is packed in MLP. So that's a kind of protection it provides. Unfortunately, on the same hand, these MLPs are not recyclable because of their very composition, because of various elements mixed there, metallized layer, plastic layer, nylon, of course. So what rules have done, if you look at solid waste management rule, it provides three alternatives basically in order of preference. So if there's a cement plant close to the city, it says that whatever MLP or low value plastics you generate, you shred it and send it to cement plant. If it is clean, then cement plant will take it for burning it for along with coal for cement production. If not that, then you can shred it and ULBs can shred it and send it to Public Works Department for road making. It also gets mixed with bitumen and it's put it in the road making. And third option is, if it is again can be segregated and can be cleaned, then there's a process called pyrolysis, where plastic waste is burnt in a controlled oxygen and controlled temperature condition to produce something which is called oil, pyrolysis oil, which is again a fuel. And now industry, the polymer industry especially, is working towards how this pyrolysis oil can again be depolymerized to produce various polymer chemicals so that they can again be used in a sustainable manner. So that is the current thought which is happening. Unfortunately, there have been alternatives which every country is looking at. But currently, for some reason, these alternatives are either too expensive. Only few in the population can adopt them. And so, and in developing countries, the vendors who are street vendors have always problem. They operate in a very price-sensitive market. So for them, it's really challenging to shift to these alternatives. And that is what now different governments are trying to solve. What kind of incentive mechanisms can be built so that they also can adopt these alternatives.
Yes.
Hi everyone, my name is Lalit. I would like to know what are the various hazards which are associated with the waste and recycling activities. Thanks. The hazards which are associated with waste and recycling activities.
So you take and I'll add on to that.
See, recycling per se, when you say hazard, are you meaning a hazard to people who are doing recycling or environmental hazard? Environmental hazard. So when you recycle something, the goal is to produce either the same thing, plastic to plastic or metal to metal or paper to paper, glass to glass. If your feedstock input waste is clean. If the input waste is not clean, then you still try to produce something which is having some value. So in order to do that, when the waste is not clean, you often have to add certain chemicals, certain additives, plasticizers to produce product which can be sold in the market. And these, actually what happens is these degrade the product. So in cruder term, it's called downcycling. And when these wastes reach the environment and when they degrade, then they pollute the environment, either by leaching these hazardous chemicals out of these wastes which go into soil and groundwater, and also different chemicals which are there releasing those chemicals. So that's a one side of when you try to repurpose your waste in the recycling. Recycling otherwise is a good practice, but it has to be done to look at if you can do product to product recycling with minimum amount of chemicals which are required to be added in a recycling process to produce a product.
One of Shrotik ji, one of the important thing which comes in waste management, there are regulatory things which come into play. There are technical solutions, but most important is behavioral things. Do you have any example of the best practices, maybe in India or elsewhere, where we can see that how means the household waste can be best managed?
There are a lot of best practices in India and across the world. I'll give the example of Pune, giving the example of SWACH cooperative in Pune, where the cooperative members reach out to every household. They have built a personal relation with the household, and they give segregated waste, and at the end of the month they also collect a user fee. So this relation has developed over time, and उन्हें पता है कि दीदी आएगी, दीदी को मुझे सेग्रीगेटेड वेस्ट देना है, और दीदी मुस्कुराते हुए आएगी, पता है दीदी, अच्छा दीदी आप पानी पियोगे, दीदी ये मैं आज दे रहा हूँ. So waste management for ULB's waste management is like a service, but if I just take SWAT's example, they have enhanced that service.
Correct.
And the urban local body, which is Pune Municipal Corporation, is saving crores in terms of collection, transportation and other costs associated with waste management. So there are countless examples right now in India. So, okay. And behavior change takes time, and it has to be well communicated, and you should not lose hope. It's not like आज मैं आपके घर जाके बोल दिया कि सर आपको segregate करना है, and the next day I don't show up. They're going to forget about me. It's a repetitive process, and the intent should be from both ends. कि अच्छा, this person is coming and showing me that you should segregate. Maybe this person is into something. I'll also participate in that. It takes time, and currently I'm happy at least there are a lot of efforts across the country. So there is hope.
That's good to know. Yes, you have a question.
Hello everyone. My name is Vaishnavi and I'm from the social work background. I'm a research scholar. So from a social work background, working in the field in the Delhi, so we have seen the municipality corporation has an important role in just storing the garbage or just degrading the garbage. So I want to know what are the challenges from your perspective, what are the challenges they face to store it in a good way so that it can be come out as a good management. So what can the challenges from your perspective do you feel the municipality corporation is facing right now in an urban area?
Now, what the corporation is facing?
Yeah.
See, corporation, again, like sir explained, it's usually a tonnage based service model, and it has been contracted to someone else. So the person responsible is taking care of that waste. But again, they are any urban local body, like you mentioned, Delhi, they are the regulatory body. I mean, it's their city in that sense, and nothing can operate in this city without the regulatory body knowing about it. So again, the regulatory body can help the contractor if these are the standardized requirements that we need. These are the amount of storage that you should have, the storage capacity. This is something that you have to take care of the water and the leachate and other kind of things that is flowing into the rivers. So the regulatory body does have an important role, and it is doable for them. Everyone knows what to do. A site of waste is not pleasant for anyone.
Yeah.
But a site of segregated waste is something worth taking a picture of.
So do we have the solution of our Delhi's landfills? Our mountains have heaps of garbage. As you said कि time लगता है, तो क्या हम कभी हम इस समस्या का निदान पाएंगे कि दिल्ली से लैंडफिल्स जो हैं वो गायब हो चुकी हैं?
दिल्ली में लैंडफिल की बायोमाइनिंग ऑलरेडी चल रही है, though the process is little slow and we have been missing targets. But hopefully at some point of time the legacy waste probably would be mined out and used. Challenges for Delhi, all the three sites, except for some amount we don't have alternative place to dispose. और वो फ्रेश वेस्ट जो डेली जनरेट हो रहा है 10 से 15,000 टन के बीच में, वो कहाँ जाएगा ऑन अ डेली बेसिस, वो एक चैलेंज अभी भी बना हुआ है इन केस इफ दीज साइट्स आर माइंड आउट एंड रीडेवलप्ड. So and Delhi government has urgently also looked at alternate sites for developing sanitary landfills, but somehow acquiring those sites will take time. Clearances has to be sought, and also it has to be seen that they are again not very ecologically sensitive sites.
That's
so that they can. Other option is, as you mine out these legacy waste sites, you also, as you clear the space, you develop integrated waste management facility there, a scientific waste management facility. But more important than that is to basically practice waste reduction strategies, so that ultimate long-term goal should be to reduce the daily generation of 10 to 15 tons. If we can reduce it to, say, for example, 5,000 or 6,000 tons by our own practices, by refusing, by not using material which is not required, and also using the material which can be recovered and recycled, then much of this problem can be addressed.
सर थोड़ा सा यूज़र फीस और टिपिंग फीस के बारे में बताइए. ये टर्म्स बड़े कंफ्यूजिंग हैं. और वेस्ट मैनेजमेंट में इनका जिक्र बार बार होता है कि यूज़र फीस क्या है और टिपिंग फीस क्या है.
यूज़र फी वो होती है जो हम बिकॉज हमारा जो सारे रूल्स हमने वो किए हैं, नोटिफाई किए हैं, दे आर एसेंशियली बेस्ड ऑन प्रिंसिपल विच इज़ कॉल्ड पोल्यूटर्स पे प्रिंसिपल. जो वेस्ट जनरेट करता है और या जो पोल्यूशन करता है उसकी जिम्मेदारी होती है उसको मैनेज करना. अगर हम खुद से मैनेज नहीं कर रहे हैं तो जो एजेंसी हमारे लिए वेस्ट मैनेज कर रही है उसको हमको एक यूज़र फ़ी देना होता है, जो रूल्स में प्रोविज़न है कि जो है एजेंसी वो फिक्स करेगी. जनरली 30 रुपीज़, 40 रुपीज़, 50 रुपीज़ टू 150 रुपीज़ पर मंथ यूज़र फ़ी वेरी करता है डिपेंडिंग ऑन सिटी एंड टाउन इन विच यू स्टे. और ये जो है अदर देन प्रॉपर्टी टैक्स विच इज़ चार्ज्ड एनुअली, this is for collection of waste from your house, removing waste from your house, and to the extent providing segregated transport to the waste processing sites. Tipping fee क्या होता है? Tipping fee is the fee which a ULB has to pay, corporation has to pay to waste processors. जो corporation को help करते हैं कि हमने एक waste to energy plant लगाया या compost plant लगाया या biogas plant लगाया, उसको चलाने में जो खर्चा है हमारा, because we also know that waste is a resource, but waste doesn't recover all its cost on its own. जैसे बायोगैस प्लांट अगर हमने लगाया तो जो बायोगैस निकल रही है उसको सेल करके हम सारा कॉस्ट जो है रिकवर नहीं कर सकते. तो सम अमाउंट ऑफ फाइनेंशियल वायबिलिटी हैज़ टू बी प्रोवाइडेड बाय कॉर्पोरेशन. वो जो है कॉर्पोरेशन को टिपिंग फी के रूप में देना होता है प्लांट ऑपरेटर को, so that he can operate on a long-term basis in a sustainable manner.
So that's really very interesting session going on, and we have really reached the completion mark. At the end, just one or two comments from you regarding the challenges. Despite knowing the seriousness of the problem, हमें पता है कि situation बहुत ख़राब है, waste management is the talk of the town, लेकिन क्या challenges हैं, हम कहाँ पे अटक जाते हैं, हम कहाँ नहीं कर पाते हैं, financial है, behavioral है, कहाँ पे? From both of you, I would like to hear, please.
At the household level, behavioral,
Okay.
जो कि हमने पहले भी बात की, और बट इंटरेस्टिंगली वी सेड कि अगर हम रोज करेंगे तो आदत पड़ जाएगी. Psychologists also have provided solution to this, and they say that anything which you do for 120 days continuously becomes your habit. So that has a clue on how this behavior of storing waste in a segregated manner can be inculcated. And segregation, actually, once you start doing segregation, that is half the battle won.
Yeah.
And rest automatically falls into place. The main challenge is waste getting contaminated, waste getting mixed, and waste getting contaminated. And as we are urbanizing more and more, the more and more complicated waste we are generating. Earlier it was very simple type. Now it is more and more hazardous and more toxic as well. So the moment it is mixed, it cannot be segregated back again to the level of unsegregated waste. So unsegregation, keeping waste segregated is best way to approach it. And that is a challenge which most of us face.
Correct. Shrotik ji.
So if you talk about the waste management value chain, 3 part है उसमें. एक होता है generation, that is what we are generating at households. If we segregate our waste, it's half the battle won. Then आता है collection, transportation, everything. There is the challenge of getting mixed out there is high. But if you are segregating your waste, the ULBs will figure out ways to how to have structured vehicles, different collection mechanisms to make sure that your segregated waste remains segregated before it reaches the processing unit. We have financial resources in our country. We have waste management is a good business in terms of money, and challenges are at every levels, but there are opportunities too, there are possibilities too. So I mean, ending is basically segregate your waste in your household, because if waste is segregated as source, it becomes a resource. So it's you who is making waste a resource, not anyone else.
Thank you so much, our expert for today's session. That has been really very interesting. I could not read many of the questions because in the YouTube live we are getting so many questions related to the kitchen waste, household waste, sanitary waste, and so on and so forth. But thank you to all the participants. Thank you to the resource person, and I would like to thank EMPC once again for starting this wonderful series, The Sky is the Limit, because it really makes us think beyond the topics and beyond the subjects, which we always come across, but we do not have any solutions regarding them. So with this, we come to the end of today's session. Thank you. Thank you so much.